close attention.
The World Health Organization is moving forward to revise international health regulations in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Some member states are expressing concern over provisions of the zero-draft WHO Convention Agreement. Critics say the proposed agreement would give the WHO authority over health care, trade, and other aspects of our lives. Well, joining us to explain more is Reggie Littlejohn. Ms. Littlejohn is president of Women's Rights Without Frontiers and co-chair of the Stop Vaccine Passport Task Force. Hi, Reggie. Before we discuss how this ties into U.S. law, what would approval of this zero-draft agreement mean for people worldwide?
Well, I believe that it will mean the establishment of a worldwide totalitarian biotech state. So these instruments, and by the way, you correctly characterized the zero draft as an agreement. That's what they're calling it. They don't want to call it a treaty because they are deliberately trying to subvert the United States and the other countries' treaty processes. So if it's an agreement, all it takes is a signature. It does not take going through our Senate. So people say, oh, don't worry about it. It will never pass our Senate. Well, they are deliberately subverting our Senate process.
Signatories must recognize, quote, the central role of the WHO as a directing and coordinating authority on international health work. What do you believe that means?
Well, it means that the WHO is able to call the shots if there's any health emergency or potential health emergency anywhere in the world. And the language that says that they have to have the permission of the country is stricken, so that they can do it without the permission of the country. And it's not only about human health. They have something called One Health, which means that they can do it on behalf of human health, animal health, plant health, the environment. They can use any reason that they want to be able to come in and basically run the show in terms of addressing that health issue.
What they are saying, in case you didn't understand that, is that the WHO proposed zero-draft convention agreement is going to give so much authority to WHO to control your health, to run your trade and commerce, to have right to also run other aspects of your life. That's the zero-draft agreement they are proposing, which member states have all agreed on. But that's just a proposal. And the moment you put your signature down, you are simply saying to WHO that if there is anything like a health emergency or potential health emergency in my country, you will come in and assume a central role without even seeking our permission, because as the woman said, there is a part of WHO's involvement in local pandemic outbreaks that means they must go and seek permission from the nation that is involved before they can come in. So for instance, something breaks out in Nigeria or in Ghana or any other African country or anywhere else, before WHO will come in, they have to get the permission of the host country. They have taken that away right now. So they don't need any permission of any host country anymore. All they need to do is let there be a pandemic declared somewhere. And the pandemic, as you heard, is not just pandemic that is pandemic happening with human beings or happening with animals, but also with the environment, because all these three entities are all roped into what they call One Health. Remember the policy of one. Let me read you what One Health is all about, just in case you don't understand. One Health is an approach calling for the collaborative efforts of multiple disciplines working locally, nationally, and globally to attain what? To attain optimal health for, listen to this now, for people, animals, and our environment, as defined by the One Health Initiative Task Force. They even call it a task force. You do what you're told to do. So now, in the spirit of harmonization into oneness, you now have humans and animals and environment roped into one, and it's called One Health. And so, if there is a health emergency with humans, if there is a health emergency with animals, if there is a health emergency with your environment, it's enough to make the WHO to show up in your country and run the show without any permission from your country's government or leadership. This is what these people are proposing. Simply put, the moment a new pandemic is declared, you are just at the mercy of the WHO. Even countries that don't trust WHO. I know what happened when the last pandemic happened. I know how there's so many countries that would not trust WHO. Many people came up with their own vaccines. People came up with the cures that they believe would be okay for their peoples, for their citizens, for their indigents. Though if this is the case now, WHO will not allow you to proffer any solution to any local pandemic in your country. So if your country has any issue, whether with the environment or animal or humans, WHO will step in and run the show. You have absolutely no say.
And I've read the zero draft proposal. It gives the WHO authority over the global supply chain, trade, commerce, through establishment of the WHO Global Pandemic Supply Chain and Logistics Network. WHO Director General Tedros would lead that effort. Early on in the pandemic, you remember Tedros praised President Xi Jinping for China's efforts to control the outbreak. So your thoughts on him and his potential control of the supply chain?
Well, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus is very closely aligned with the Chinese Communist Party, and the Chinese Communist Party has absolutely outsized influence at the World Health Organization, which is why they were able to get away with all the lies that they did, which were just amplified by Dr. Tedros. So this is not a good alliance at all. And in terms of the supply chains, they are also wanting to take control over the intellectual property. Like if somebody in the United States or another country develops a great vaccine, they're going to be forced to share that information, which I think is bad for the production of pharmaceuticals. I think that the intellectual property rights are very important.
Under the global pandemic logistics and supply chain, Tedros will take over trade and commerce when there is a pandemic. So basically,